Hello everyone, I am here with my dear friend and neighbor Ann Maglinte. She's teaching a watercolor class in April of 2021 that is online and on YouTube, and so we are doing these videos to kind of introduce you to her and to kind of talk about the different things that are going to be in the class. But I also wanted to talk about the fact that she's a really powerful, spiritual, intuitive person also, and has been doing this as long as I have. It's like, she's a little older than me, but basically we've been both doing this forever, right? And we've been on different paths, but her path has been really about kind of connecting with the spirituality of plants and really allowing in those intuitive skills related to like the Celtic traditions.
Yes.
And so you have a really strong Irish connection, right?
I do.
Like you have like this wonderful woman who was a healer, Gina, that taught you, and then you worked with an amazing woman, Lady Olivia.
Olivia, yes.
Which I don't know anything about. So I thought that would be a great conversation. Tell us about that. So Gina was with the California School of Herbal Medicine? Studies.
Yeah.
The California School of Herbal Studies. So what was that about?
Well, so that school was started by a number of really, really good herbalists, but people might have heard of Rosemary Gladstar, and she and Jane, both of them were really, really helpful to me. And so I decided I wanted to study herbalism. And so I took a number of classes there. I studied there for years and years, and I finally ended up with an advanced herbology degree from Rosemary. And so I did a lot of healing. I would have clients and things that would come and see me about herbal healing. But then I met Gina Banghart. And so Gina was also at the California School of Herbal Studies, but she was teaching Wicca.
Oh, wow.
And this was I'd always... when I was a teenager, I was making incense and all kinds of magical things. This was kind of something that I really enjoyed doing, and I was so excited. And so I signed up for it, and it was more than just Wicca. It was about becoming a priestess. And so Gina had learned from her grandmother in Ireland, and how wonderful is that, to get that tradition. And there was 12 of us in the class, and we would go out to Grandmother Pine Tree, and that's where we would have our meetings. We had visualizations. We had all kinds of experiences with the spirituality of plants and learning about being a priestess. And then the second year was called the Year of the Queen. So I graduated from the first one, and it's a year and a day. And then the second one was all about reaching out to your community with your skills. And so that's when I wanted to start a moon group, and I started exploring more with my spirituality, with what I could share with other women.
And I think that's so important right now, because we're in the Aquarian age, which is really about the feminine coming back into balance with the masculine. And I mean, I love the fact that we've got people like you that have studied lineages, right? So like feminine lineages that have been passed down for centuries. And, and that those teachers actually required you to also share with the community, reach out and teach.
Yes.
Because that's where we are right now. I think it's so important for women to be supporting women. And that's critical in this next stage of evolution. And so not only did you do that, but tell me about Lady Olivia. That name all by itself is kind of interesting.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah, so Lady Olivia has, when she was living, she was in Clonical Castle in Ireland.
And like a real castle?
Yeah, a real castle.
Oh my gosh.
And they would have tours. Her nephew would give the tours. But we were invited to go there because we knew a friend of hers in town, in Willits. And so we got to go there and visit the castle and talk more to Lady Olivia. And she is an amazing woman. She has helped so many women with the priesthood. And so we got to go downstairs, and she actually has a real well, very much like a Bridget's well, with sacred waters.
Oh, wow.
And she would have an altar there in the basement, and she had an altar set up for each of the zodiacal signs. And, and we walked around and saw each of them. And then she is also an author, so I got several of her books. And then, to my delight, I found out that she would come to Guerneville, and she was ordaining priestesses there. So I did, when I got back to California from Ireland, then I started the year-long priestess program. and with friends of mine in Willits that were also ordained priestesses. And so then Lady Olivia came then to Geyserville, California, and we had the whole weekend with her. It was a whole convocation of all priestesses of Isis.
Wow.
And very much with the Egyptian methodology. And so then at the end, then she gave us our crowns, and I'll never forget that with Lady Olivia. She is such an amazing spiritual woman, and she has passed, but of course she lives on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And the energy is probably still in the castle and all that kind
Yes.
of thing, too. It's
Yes.
like that to me is so interesting. I find that fascinating because I've got so much Irish in me as the day is long in my genetics when I took the 23andMe test. And I keep wanting to go back to Ireland, just to see those beautiful places and
Yes.
castles and cliffs. And, I have memories of, being like a druid on a cliff in the wind, pulling in a storm, like actually bringing a storm in. I remember myself doing that, and in the magic and the druid language and everything, it was really amazing. So I think it's amazing that you actually got to go to Ireland and actually do that.
Yes.
And actually go through those traditional steps in order to actually have that invocation and to anchor that in, because that's what I think invocations and convocations are. It's like that you basically pull in that lineage and you anchor that lineage and you become that lineage. You become the translator for that lineage, which is the feminine tools. Those are the feminine intuitive tools and traditions, and that's just amazing. So now I wanted to bring this up to everybody because I think there's such a strong connection between spirituality and art, and spirituality and especially painting. And, I wanted to talk about that for a second because, my sister has, like I told you, has recently started doing painting. And she said it's the first thing in her life that she actually feels is completely her own creativity coming out. And, and that's because it's still, it's quiet, it's almost meditative. And, talk about how that and the intuition and the spirituality of the planets and plants and all that kind of comes together when you're teaching and you're working with watercolor.
So a lot of times people will experience creative blocks where they look at a piece of paper or a canvas and they're not really quite sure what to do. So what I do is I'll go out on a walk and I become very in tune with the plants. And I look and I observe and I see what's all around me. I just kind of let my mind go. And then I come back into the studio, and then just intuitively I will wet the paper, pick out some colors that seem like the right things to use, and I will just start to put down color. And you can tip the paper and just kind of let it flow. And it's all about letting go of anything you have in your mind, and just you can do several of those, and that's actually a really good way to start when you're starting your painting practice for that day, is to just do some of these intuitive things like this. And then the other thing that I've been working with for years is called Jean Carbonetti, and she did a whole series of the Tao of watercolor, and she related it to the yoga practice and Tai Chi. And so what you're doing is you bring some of those things in, like about centering yourself and being in tune with your body, and it's all about being focused and just being one with your paper and with the watercolor, and then it's time to paint. But so many times we have like an hour to paint. We rush into the studio, or maybe we're painting on the kitchen table and the kids are going to come home, right?
Right, totally.
And it's like you're not in that moment. So with Jean, it's like if you can take just a few moments to center and ground in your body, then you'll be going to really produce a lot more and you'll be a lot happier. The whole thing is we want watercolor to be stressful, meditative,
Unstressful.
Yes.
Yeah. Stressful.
We're too stressed out.
Right.
We want to be unstressed.
Right.
We want to paint with watercolor.
Right.
And we want to paint ourselves calm.
Well, and I think water in general is that soothing, calming element.
Yes.
And it's like what do they say, we're like 80% water or something in our body. And so I think that water has that ohm sound that, they actually say the sound of a hydrogen molecule when it's vibrating says ohm. That's actually the vibration and the sound. So as we tune into the watercolor of the paint and the water within us, then they flow together. They start to flow together. And that's
Yes.
the beauty of watercolor, is that it is about flow. It's not.
Yes.
It's less about exactitude, and it's more about that flow, the impression, the energy, the essence of something, the impression of something, which I think is so beautiful.
Well, the other thing is that so many times people doing watercolor for the first time want to try to control it. So it's exactly what you said. If you just go with the flow and let watercolor do what it does best, which is to flow, you will find that you feel much better about what you're working on. It'll be very exciting.
Yeah, well, I think this is going to be a great class. And so this class starts in April.
Yes.
And it's $120 for 6 weeks.
Yes.
And there's videos and, all sorts of things in that you'll tell everybody what they need with all their utensils and artwork and all that kind of stuff, so they can be all ready. And at the end of it, they get to share it on Facebook, right?
Yes, we have a wonderful community Facebook page that is very positive, and you post your work, and I can comment on it, and then the other students who are taking the class can comment on it, and that just becomes having the acceptance of what you're doing, and then also being able to share it. You can feel proud of it, and the things that the students have created are amazing. And one of the things that they talked about so much was the community of watercolors that they were a part of. You become friends. And so with all of us being so much at home now, not being able to reach out to people, we can do this, and you will find that it really, having watercolor in your life really completes your life.
And you've had students for a long time, right?
Yeah, I've had students been studying with me for 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
Teaching at the college, I started about 16 years ago, and I still have students that are working with me because I keep it fresh.
Right.
I like to bring in new skills and new techniques and things that are really fun to do with watercolor.
Yeah, and you also exhibit in Mendocino, right? So
Yes.
you have the Mendocino coast. I mean, you're in this whole part of this huge artist community
Yes.
that is Mendocino. I mean, if you ever come to Mendocino, there are galleries and art everywhere. It's really beautiful, and you exhibit there also.
Yes, at North Coast Artist Gallery. We're a member of that gallery. It's been many, many years. And so my husband's a photographer, and we actually make Celtic stepping stones and garden plaques. I'm also a sculptor.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Like she needs one more thing to do, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's part of my Celtic heritage.
Well, and also
Yeah.
in your house, you have a whole apothecary.
I do.
I've been in her house. I mean, like, she's got this whole thing that's set up like an apothecary. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were talking about your past life, but my past life, I always thought I was an apothecary.
Clearly.
And a healer.
Clearly.
And so I love being in there and just making all these things. And I have an Etsy shop where I sell all of my apothecary wares, and that takes me right back to the past.
Yeah.
As does the herbalism, working with the plants, and it all works into being able to then take that and work with the watercolor and make something. When you paint in watercolor and you go outside and record what you're seeing, it's so meaningful to you as compared to taking a photograph.
Right. It means more.
It means a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's, I think in our world we have so much that everybody thinks it has to be absolutely perfect, but I think what painting is about is expressing the essence of something rather than it exactly as it looked. I mean, if it's exactly as it looked, you can take a photo.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
There's a feeling that comes across on paintings. Like you feel something on the inside. So I wanted to show some of your watercolors. Oh yeah, because she brought some of these for us.
Well, so this is just a sketch I did of some trees when we were outside taking a walk, and then I also like to do sketching. I'm actually going to have a one we're going to do nature journaling and sketching, and so it's really nice to kind of break up your paper. Here's let me show you one of these other ones here. So here was a series. We had plantains, strawberries, and so you see how you can break it up, and then you can just do little sketches, which is really fun. And being outside with your sketchbook and having an opportunity to really work outside is just really fun.
It is. Yeah, no, so everybody wants to sign up for this class, and it starts in April, so we're giving you plenty of time so that you can start. And, in this pandemic, I think it's really important for us to share and us to find those outlets. I think that that's been the best part about this pandemic, is that everybody has had to find a new tempo and a new way, and they've had to drop into themselves a little bit more. So I find that people are moving towards art more than they probably have in a long time, because we're less busy in the external world somehow, and we're more at home, and we can do things. And I think that's healthy. I think it's a much healthier way to live.
It is. It's so important to let your creativity out, because you can be just so caught up inside, and creativity can be really healing, and it really helps the mind. So I have a lot of people that have been studying with me online, and they find that it really helps again with just bringing that part of themselves out that maybe has been stifled for a while, and making that a part of their lives would really helps in the pandemic.
I think so too. And you know, I can't tell you how many times I've had dreams of this, just the most beautiful, amazing imagery, right? That's not complicated, it's simple, and I would say, God, I wish I could paint that. And I'm like, maybe I can, right? And
Of course you can. Of course you can. Yes.
So thank you for this lovely interview, and,
thank
we're
you,
going
Ira.
to continue to play with some of these and show some more paintings, and sign up for the class, April 2021. Bye.
Bye.